I see a lot of Twisted Metal content on YouTube, and I can't help but think to myself that I just feel left out. There probably isn't much about these games that you, the viewer, don't already know about. So this video isn't intended to be a tell-all or unearthing of new information or anything like that. Think of it more as a love letter. A personal journal entry that you get to not so secretly listen into, as I take a personal drive down memory lane of one of my favorite game series of all time, Twisted Metal. The year is 1996. My oldest brother and his friend are in his room playing PlayStation. No different than any other weekend. In those days, I was mostly restricted to the old Sega Genesis in my room, which honestly I loved, because I finally got my hands on all the games I was watching my brothers play. Most importantly, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I liked going fast, but I hadn't even realized that there was a world where I could go fast and shoot machine guns and rockets at people. Growing up, it wasn't an uncommon occurrence for me to sit in the corner of the room and watch for hours as my brother and his friends worked their way through Silent Hill, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, Tekken, and even the golden years of watching WWE Monday Night Raw. My oldest brother's room was a place where I learned about the things that would shape my adulthood: music, movies, TV, and video games. So as fate would have it, I sat there watching my brother and his friend play Twisted Metal 2. I was in awe. I couldn't believe the chaos, the fast pace, the characters, the maps. It seemed like a giant and incredible world. I would say my mind was being warped, but I grew up in a household that made sure we kids knew the difference between reality and make-believe. My parents were very lenient on what we watched and played, so long as we were able to maintain that we understood the difference. So I had already dipped my toes into South Park and basketball and many other not so age-appropriate stuff, but hey, it was the 90s. I played as much Twisted Metal 2 as one could at the ripe old age of 7 or 8 years old. I significantly recall my brother's friend saying the first game was better. I couldn't believe that as much fun as I was having, there was an entirely different experience to be had in the first game. Some of these memories are blurry, but I may have asked him to bring it over one time for me to try. I may have played it at some point after that. It's hard to say. I mean, this was nearly 30 years ago after all. At some point, I remember playing Twisted Metal and not liking it as much as Twisted Metal 2. And that's probably just because, I grew up playing Twisted Metal 2. As far as the PlayStation 1 era goes, it's likely a toss-up of what I played the most. Because I played Twisted Metal 2 alone, but by the time Twisted Metal 3 and 4 came out, and I got them, I had friends of my own, and the PS1 was about to be all mine. Now, I grew up in a house that didn't make a lot of money. Yet my parents were incredibly generous with their money, and always made sure that us kids had things like games and music and movies. And as a result, if my brother didn't buy things, I typically wouldn't get them until many years after release. As far as I recall, I didn't get Twisted Metal 3 and 4 until around the time the PS2 was about to come out. My oldest brother had pre-ordered the PS2 from the local game and movie rental store he worked at, and just like that, the PlayStation 1 now belonged to me and my middle brother. And just to be clear, I was the youngest of 3 kids, so I'm sure I spent a lot of time playing that old Sega Genesis even then. But now I was playing all the games I watched my brothers play on PS1, when I could manage to get the time in. I didn't hate Twisted Metal 3 and 4. They were not intrinsically bad games. In fact, I think some people's favorite games are 3 and 4. But for me, some part of that initial spark was missing. Maybe it was a lack of influence of my brothers thinking it was a cool game as well. 3 left a decent, lasting impression on me as I played it with and against my friends and cousins, but 4 almost seems like some kind of weird fever dream. I know I played it, but I don't know for how long. I only recall making my own custom car and not forming too many lasting memories from it. And just like that, I stopped thinking about Twisted Metal for quite some time. At some point, the game would rear its ugly face back into our household. I dare say that the PlayStation 2 era of console gaming was my most influential. At some point around 2004 or 2005, I ended up getting a shared PlayStation 2 with my middle brother. And I could gush over the plethora of brilliant and groundbreaking games I played on the PS2 for days. I mean, Battlefield 2 Modern Combat, SOCOM 2, Tony Hawk's 4 and Underground, Tekken Tag, Grand Theft Auto, Fight Night, Gran Turismo. It goes on and on and on. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. We're forgetting one of the most monumental, game-changing entries, Twisted Metal Black. June 18th, 2001, or sometime very shortly after, was a great day for my brother. I asked him, and he said he got Twisted Metal Black straight away, day one. and still has his original copy from then. It's a one-owner copy. In fact, he has an incredible collection of vintage games and systems, a lot of which were our childhood titles. Now, I foolishly donated my PS2 games to my father's eBay enterprise in the mid-2000s after I obtained a PS3. I will regret that forever. But anyway, why is Twisted Metal Black so important in this story? Well, I at the time was just starting to reach my teenage years. The beans had been spilled, WWE was a drama, and girls were starting to look kinda pretty. I was maturing as a young man, and so was my taste. Twisted Metal Black was a mature take on a series that had drifted down a path of absurdity, and frankly, some awkward goofiness. I believe the original dev team of the first two games were brought back in for one last hurrah, and boy did they make the absolute best of it. Now in those days, I was transported back into that little kid who thought The Undertaker was actually a dead guy, Mankind was a freak, and Kane was a demon. Sweet Tooth was a psychotic, maniacal serial killer. Preacher was unsettling, Junkyard Dog was disfigured, No Face was tormented, Mr. Grimm was back. Every character was so amazing and conflictual in their own ways. The story was dark and twisted. But the wildest part? I was bad at the game. It had been a while since I had thought about car combat or even played it. I genuinely thought the game was too hard for me for a long time. I don't think I actually enjoyed it until I matured a little more as a gamer, a year or two after I had first played it. I know this because I remember going back and trying it again and thinking to myself, why didn't I fall in love with this game like the original titles? I think I just enjoyed watching other people play it initially. After beating the game with every character and being satisfied, I would boot it up from time to time, the very disc that was displayed earlier, but as is the case with minigames, it eventually exited my PS2 for the last time. Apparently there was a sequel to Black, and even a leaked version that you can play, which I might just do a separate video on reacting to the first time seeing it. But we never got it. It was scrapped and the world was denied a follow-up to one of the best car combat games ever created. Why do these things happen? What a blunder! Then there was True Darkness. A decade of black, if you will. I would start my journey into building PCs after that, and my interest in console gaming would be totally and completely neglected for many years. I was playing Counter-Strike full-time at this stage in my life. That's a separate video obsession that I could make. But one of the coolest things you can ever have in your life is a best friend. Specifically, my best friend, Corey. There isn't enough time to sit here and tell you how awesome this guy is, but this short side quest should give you a decent idea. In 2009, I made the move from Michigan to Phoenix, Arizona. At this time, I think I was console and PC-less. I had no games of my own. I was living with my oldest brother who had all the gaming stuff, but I was back to square one, watching my brother play games. Not ideal for a 19-year-old kid. Well, when I tell you I had a great best friend, it feels a bit underhyped. After 6 months or so in Arizona, I was casually chatting with him, and we got to talking about how bored I was, and I didn't really have any entertainment out here. Corey, my best friend, greatest guy in the world, bought me a PlayStation 3. I actually can't believe that. What an amazing friend. I use this console to primarily play Call of Duty Black Ops 2 with my cousin John. We played a lot, but eventually the unthinkable happened. There was a reboot on the way. Twisted Metal was back. I remember saying to myself, and maybe even out loud, wow, a new Twisted Metal? That's gonna be insane on the PS3. And eventually I got my hands on the demo. I don't know why people change, things change, everyone and everything is always evolving and growing, and no matter how hard you fight it, you're gonna change too. While I was playing the demo, I thought, this feels like Twisted Metal, it looks like Twisted Metal, but this is not the game that I loved all those years ago. I just wasn't feeling it. I didn't get that childlike resurgence of wonder and excitement I thought I would. I wanted more Black. It just didn't scratch the itch. I can't even tell you whether it was a good game or a bad game because I never bought it, which is sad in its own right. I heard it was way more multiplayer focused instead of story driven. Maybe I should go back and give it a chance now. I mean, if that's even still a thing, if it's still playable. I think that was pretty much it for me in Twisted Metal. I would play old games on PS1 from time to time, and I still do. But for my journey with car combat, kinda ended with the PS2. And then we got Twisted Metal, the TV show. You know, and what is there to be said? I think first off, I have to just say it one more time. Twisted Metal Black is gone, and it's never coming back. Unless we get a remake. Please, please, please get a remake. But that means that I have to let go of the idea that it's gonna be dark, creepy and a demented story. Don't get me wrong, the TV show has its moments of depravity. They do a decent job at making Sweet Tooth an unhinged wild card, but it has a lot of that Twisted Metal 3 and 4 goofiness to it that I wasn't all that fond of. I expected the show to be very dark, especially with other great dramas paving the way, like The Walking Dead Season 1, The Last of Us. There was serious potential, and to be honest, a missed opportunity to make something extremely compelling and just stomach-churning. But we have what we have. TV and movie adaptations of video games have never been perfect. Hollywood likes to rewrite already proven stories. It happens time and time again. It's like buying a car and then taking it home and rebuilding it from the ground up and thinking you could do a better job. The only way that works is if you can now shoot machine guns and sling napalm from it. And I think the local police will probably take issue with that. But that's it. And I want to thank you guys for sitting through the story. It's been an incredible adventure for me on YouTube so far. I'm always thinking of ways to expand my content and do something a little different. I don't particularly think that this story is a unique one, but it was a nice stroll down memory lane, and I'm happy to have someone to share it with, or even just have it for my own records. I love Twisted Metal, even if it's being neglected. I love video games, and I love making videos. So thank you for listening. Wow! You like that last video? What if I told you there's a bunch more just like it? If you go to my YouTube page and check out the playlist, Is It Fun?, you can find a bunch more. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Also, guys, we're trying to build a little community here. So go ahead and find us on Twitch, twitch.tv/voidera, and join our Discord. You can get the link at my Twitch. At the beginning of the video, there's QR codes. And that's it. We'll see you guys.